Okay, welcome everyone. So today Leah and I have Micaela Riley with us. Micaela is a functional medicine and nutrition practitioner. Hi, Micaela.
Hi.
Hi, how are you guys?
We are so good. We are very ready to pick your brain. Can you kind of go into a little bit of detail about what you do? What does
hmm
that mean?
Yes, when I say functional medicine and nutrition, it can probably be kind of like, what is that?
Sure.
But I would say I utilize nutrition and functional healing modalities to help women heal their chronic health issues and ultimately free them from the frustrating world of Western medicine.
Ooh.
I know through my story, which we'll probably get into that too, I became really passionate about finding another way of healing the body because I just wasn't getting the answers that I wanted. And I hear this from almost every single one of my clients. You know, they see your typical doctor and they just tell them like, oh, you're fine, you're just getting older, or brush it off with I think you need some Tylenol or birth control, whatever. And it's just, there's so much more that goes into it. There's root cause healing approaches that you can take to really heal the body. And it doesn't have to be like this frustrating thing. So, yeah, that's what I would do. That's what I would say that I do. And I am super passionate about it, which really helps when you're in this industry.
I love that. So, kind of go into your story about how you got into this space.
Yeah.
Yeah, how long exactly do you have? Because I could probably talk about this for like an hour. It started, I'll do like a short story because it really is like so long. But to give you a synopsis, when I was growing up in like middle school, I was underdeveloping, like I wasn't having my cycle at the same age as like my peers, and that was kind of alarming to me. Um, I was a very active young person too, so I was always involved in sports, working out. Um, Nutrition wasn't really like anything that I thought about. I kind of ate whatever I wanted, and I went to my doctor and I was like, "Hey, I'm like in my teens. I'm not having my cycle. Like, what should I do?" And first red flag, she put me on birth control because she was like, "Oh, this will give you a cycle." Now knowing everything that I know, that was like a cascade of issues that just caused so many things. And actually, prior to that, I was experiencing like acne and things like that, and I was put on an antibiotic for like 3 years. Um, and now that I know everything that I know, that can trigger autoimmunity in the body, being on long term antibiotics. And that's actually very common for women, especially, is being put on long term antibiotics and then later on down the road having an autoimmune disease. And I now have an
What?
autoimmune disease. So it's just
Wow.
kind of funny how that works out. But yeah, so I was put on birth control, and then as soon as I got on that birth control, like my weight like just like went through the roof. I had gained like an insane amount of weight in a very short period of time because I was being, synthetic hormones were going through my body, and my body just really didn't even have a chance to figure out hormonal harmony, and then I just started pumping it with like synthetic estrogen. So, immediately I started more self-conscious of my body and gaining a little bit more weight. So I got super heavy into dieting and exercise
Mm.
to the point where it was very restrictive. I was counting all my calories, like going on 3 hour runs just to try to, lose weight. And initially I did, but then it kind of got into this binge restrict cycle, and I had horrible body dysmorphia and just like a horrible relationship with my body. Um, but I found a really strong passion for fitness within that. And so then I kind of got into teaching group fitness classes actually. And so I did that for about 7 years, and I really loved it. I really enjoyed it, but it became almost like I was just struggling so much still with my body, and I had all these
Yeah.
metabolic issues like still going on with PCOS that had developed from the birth control and this autoimmune disease with my thyroid that like I just quite didn't know about because no doctors did like extensive testing to like really determine that until later on down the road. But that's a reason why I was like experiencing chronic inflammation after working out all the time. So I taught group fitness classes for a while, and then I really was like still in and out of the doctor, just like trying to figure out, but mostly I was just trying to maintain my weight and everything through exercise and nutrition. But then I was like, there has to be a better way, like what's going on. And at this time, functional medicine was still kind of like not really on the scene. There was a few practitioners there, but it wasn't as big as it is now, I feel like.
Yeah.
So I had worked with a few functional medicine people, and some had helped a lot, but I found one in particular, and the company's called Nutrition Dynamic. They are really awesome. And I would say if I didn't work with them, like my passion for everything that I do truly wouldn't be like where it is today. So I have a lot to say to them, but yeah, through working with them and running tons of functional lab testing, like I just found so much out about my body that I just like never even knew. The Hashimotos, thyroid, autoimmunity disease that was present. My hormones were like a complete wreck. Like I had no estrogen, no progesterone. My stress hormones were so high that my body was just in this constant state of fight or flight. And like, no matter, you can't exercise your way out of that. So I had to take like 2 to 3 months off of like working out completely, which I was still teaching group fitness classes a little bit at that time. And honestly, up until that point, like that was my whole identity. Like everyone knew me as like the workout instructor or the girl that works out all the time. So to say that to someone like, you can't do this anymore, like your body just really can't handle it. Like that's really hard to hear. But it obviously worked out for the better because I kind of went through my own healing journey and like figuring everything out and was able to finally start to like lose weight and feel like better in my own skin and just feel like my hormones are finally back to where they were. I had a cycle again and it was regular. And I just really found that passion for women's health. And I was like, I know I was put on this earth to like do this. My story, I feel like connects so much with other women and it's not really talked about enough. No. And I just want to do this. So it's actually funny when 2020 happened and I took a job with a very well-known fitness brand. And I thought that was going to be like my like career for the rest of my life. And it actually didn't end up working out at all.
I know the story.
So yes, it was not the best story, but it actually lands me in like the best position that I'm in now.
Totally.
So yeah, I ended up leaving that position and then I moved back home because it was obviously not from where I'm from. And it was like a really, really low point in my life. Like I was like, what do I do now? I feel like my whole life has just like crumbled. And then I was like, I'm going to start posting on Instagram about like, you know, everything that I've kind of been doing in functional medicine, nutrition. So I started my account and actually there was like 3 other names before I landed on Be Balanced by Micaela, but I started posting and like, it wasn't really anything at first, but then like, I think the year following, I was like, I'm going to get serious about this. Like, let me take 6 months to just like dedicate towards making content, like really educating people. And like, it kind of blew up. I never would have imagined that because I'm not kidding you. I had like 300 followers for like the longest time. And it's really not about the followers. And I really don't care about the number because it's just like, that doesn't really matter. But it is very rewarding to see like people actually enjoy what I'm talking about and like to see people's comments of like, oh my gosh, like this happened to me or like I'm experiencing this right now. It's just so validating, I'm sure, for other people to see like, oh, this is like something else that somebody else is experiencing and it's like something that's real, something that's out there. So Yeah, that's a very long-winded story
No,
of kind of how
that
I
was amazing.
started and like
Yeah.
where I'm at now.
No, that was perfect. And what I was just
Yeah,
gonna
so it's
say,
just funny.
oh, sorry. What I was just gonna say is like looking at your Instagram, it's very comforting because a lot of the things that you post about birth control or working out or Western medicine, I feel seen.
Yeah.
And so that's why your content is so great and
Yeah.
probably has blown up, which is amazing.
I also feel like you're the other side of what we're doing in a physical way, because we talk a lot about, the mental health and getting to the root cause of it, and not the band-aids and not the quick fixes. And for what you're doing, it's like getting to the root cause of physical body stuff also, but also like everything is connected anyway. Like we all know, like the body and the mind are very connected. So if you can get your mind right, like you should also be practicing to get your body right too. So I feel like my journey through mental health in the last couple of years, so you're saying you started this in 2020, that was similar to when I started like my mental health journey. And it's kind of been like little by little, I'm going more the natural route, the supplement route. Like I weaned off, or I didn't wean off, but I came off birth control for the first time since I was like 16 years old.
Same.
And I'm going to be like, my skin has been a fucking disaster literally ever since. And I'm like, there has to be something I can do, because I do not want to go back on this. I have just kind of gone down my rabbit holes and seen way too many negative side effects that like we really aren't taught. Like nobody tells us these things. Our OBs just like pass them out and hand them to us like it's not a big deal. Like, oh, here, this one. Oh, that one didn't work for you. Try this one. So I love that you're posting about like what these substances actually do to our bodies. Mm-hmm. Can we get into that?
Yeah, it's actually so crazy. Yeah, it's actually so crazy too. Like talking about different birth controls too, because the depot shot, I posted something about Yaz and Yasmin, and like those two birth controls, like no one's talking about it enough, how like they're under like a current lawsuit, and like the manufacturer has completely denied any of the claims against them, which is like so telling to what's going on. But yeah, like people have experienced heart attacks, strokes from like clotting factors, which is a really big side effect of birth control. And the depot shot was really popular back in like the 2000s, I think. Like, I don't really know any doctor that uses them now because it's so like dangerous, but pulling your estrogen to like next to nothing can cause the body to go into an autoimmune disease or have the immune system be overactive and start attacking itself essentially. So the depot shot is very interesting too, because I guarantee anyone that's listening or throughout like my social media that has gone on depot is probably dealing with some sort of metabolic or autoimmunity disease right now, because it's just so dangerous.
Now, what about the birth control pill? What are the dangers of taking that? Because that was something that I always used was birth control, and had been using since I was 16 years old. And then I am very prone to UTIs, and I went to a holistic doctor for that. And the first thing that they wanted me to do was get off my birth control.
Yeah. With birth control, they're giving you synthetic progestin, which is a synthetic form of progesterone, and ethinyl estradiol, which is a chemical compound of estrogen. It's not like an HRT form, but it's these synthetic compounds. And what it does is it causes your estrogen and progesterone to be like next to nothing. It like flatlines it essentially. And throughout the women's, natural menstrual cycle, we have nice ebbs and flows of our hormones. And around ovulation, you get a nice peak of progesterone, and then it kind of slowly tapers off. And progesterone, you really, really want, even if you don't want to have a child, because it really just helps create hormonal harmony in the body. It helps with sleep. recovery. There's a lot of mental benefits. It's kind of like our chill pill hormone. And when you don't have, good amounts of that naturally, it can cause a lot of issues. And also when your hormones are flatlined like that, typically what can happen, especially when you come off, which is why sometimes people experience a lot of symptoms with like skin and other things. When you keep your hormones like this low for this long, your body is constantly trying to find balance. So it will typically cause androgens, which is like typically the main reason why you get cystic acne. It can cause you to go androgen dominant. So because those hormones are not, they're kind of staying flatline. So hormones have to go somewhere else. So it'll just dump into androgens or testosterone, which is the main reason why people get pill-induced PCOS, which happened to me. I was on, I can't remember which birth control it was, but it really doesn't matter across the board. They essentially all do the same, lines your hormones. But with me, when I came off, it dumped all into androgens and caused me to go non-classical PCOS and have that androgen dominant, component to it.
So much
I know
to unpack.
Okay, well, let me ask you, I've probably been off, it'll be a year next month. And as long as I was on it, the only times I wasn't on birth control was while I was pregnant. And then after every baby, I would get right back on it. I mean, I'm asking for advice here, but like, has too much damage been done? Can I fix whatever has been unbalanced in my body? Like, is that possible at 30 something years old?
Yes, 100%. I've had women come to me and they've been on birth control like their whole entire life. Like you can totally like support your body coming off of it. It's really just, doing it in a very strategic way and to make sure that you're not going to have symptoms, or if you've already gone off of it, utilizing functional lab testing and some other, techniques and tricks to make sure that your hormones don't go crazy, because that can happen. Because when you come off birth control and pull that pill out of the equation, that's when you can start to have a lot of other imbalances in other areas. And then on top of that, if you're experiencing a lot of life stressors or physically pushing your body way too much, not giving your body the right nutrients, you have like whack gut health, like everything's just kind of going crazy, and you pull that birth control out, you could really cause your hormones to go nuts. And they're kind of in flux for about 3 months. And sometimes it takes people like 3 to 6 months for their bodies to really try to figure out like what's going on. But no, you definitely aren't like at a loss or like, there's
You're
definitely
broken.
hope. Yes.
Shit.
Yeah.
That's so good to know.
Yeah. So the other crazy thing that you posted on your Instagram about birth control is that the symptoms of it can lead to mental health conditions like anxiety and depression, which I never correlated the two. And then when you posted that, I was like, that makes
literally
so much fucking sense.
Yes. Yeah, if you think about it, like the pipeline from birth control to anti-anxieties or depression medications is like insane. Almost every client that I work with, they've been on birth control and they're on Zoloft, Wellbutrin, whatever. And yes, there's a very strong correlation. Obviously, there's not like scientific research out there, but I don't really think everything that I do or teach really there needs to be, there are some things that like you can just be like common sense. Like there's a very strong correlation of people that have experienced that. And I don't think there's any way to deny it. And, also just thinking logically about how, I said your hormones are basically flatlined and sometimes even pushed into like menopause. Obviously that's going to have, mental health effects and everything like that.
So crazy.
I know. Well, and shit, I lost it.
Oh.
Damn it.
Well, I was going to kind of go into, so, you know, for our young listeners who, let's say, are on birth control, but they're listening to this podcast and they're like, well, fuck. Like, what am I supposed to do then if I'm sexually active or have a partner or whatever, but I don't want to get pregnant? Then what? Like, are there other alternatives if you, like, want to do some type of prevention, but also don't want to, like, completely fuck your body up?
True.
Yes, yeah. And there are tons of methods out there. Fertility awareness method is like the best way. And if you really think about it, we are only fertile for like maybe like 4 to 5 days out of the month, truly. Yeah. So if you're tracking your cycles, tracking your basal body temperature, that really tells you a lot about, you know, when you're most fertile. Tracking your cervical mucus, that's a really good way to indicate if you're ovulating or not. Obviously there has to be some kind of, you know, responsibility behind it. You just don't want to like be like willy-nilly all the time. But if you're using some kind of like tracking method, you really are, you know, a majority of the time safe. There are other like techniques that aren't completely holistic that I think work great, that are obviously better than birth control. There's like, I don't know exactly what it's called. It's like some kind of like spermicide or something that you put in like before, you know, having intercourse or whatever. And that like will block. Yeah. And it's like a one-time thing that you can just get. Obviously that's not like a super holistic method, but I think it is a safer option than just being on birth control, where you have the risk of having all these hormonal issues. And if you want to be fertile when you come off of birth control, you're better off using something like that than completely blocking your ovulation for like 15, 20 years. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of methods out there. There's a company out there too called Temp Drop. I have a partnership with them. I haven't posted anything about them, but it's like this band you wear and it tracks your body temperature and kind of tells you like, hey, you're fertile, like use more caution, which is a great option to, you know, just wear that, have an app tell you like, you know, be more careful around this time or whatever. So yes, there's definitely a lot of methods out there. It's just kind of finding what works best for you and what's most, what makes the most sense in your situation.
I just remembered what I was going to say.
Say it, girl.
You were talking about how there's not like a lot of research in the holistic and like natural way. And we were like, Christine and I were listening to a podcast that was talking about why that is, because the people who pay for the researchers is the people usually pushing for the medicine. Like there's money in it. Like research costs a lot of money. And if it's like a holistic, natural approach, like there's nobody that's paying for this research to be done unless people are just pouring millions and millions of dollars into like a fund for research just from the good of their hearts. So for anybody who is like, well, there isn't a ton of research out there, this is why.
Big pharma is a business. And
no, that's a very, very good point.
They make more money from you being sick. So it's one of those things where you just have to, you know, critically think for yourself on, are they looking out for my best interest or are they trying to make money off of me?
Right.
So that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
No, the statistics behind like how much money Big Pharma made on like, I don't know what medication it was. I think it was like, it was something, I can't remember, but it was like literally like billions of dollars off of, that's what it was, statins, because that's like a very common blood pressure medication. I get a ton of clients that are on that, and it's very easy in some cases to get them off of it, but statins are like, they make so much money off of it. And if you think about it, like there's like millions of Americans that are on it. And I mean, that's a whole nother topic, but it's really crazy how much money they make. And they're funding a lot of that research, like you said. So no one in the holistic space obviously is really doing that at the level that they do.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. They're just like, you guys are like you're like us, like the little dogs just trying to fight the fight. I think we're making some way though.
Yes.
Yeah. We are making some progress. So I kind of wanted to talk about, like, okay, let's go back to like big pharma. Because I posted something about how like SSRIs, it's a $350 billion industry. And you posted about how with gut health and how SSRIs impact our gut.
Yeah, well, we should talk about that.
Let's talk about it. Can you kind of go into that on why it can be damaging to our gut?
Yes. So SSRIs are a serotonin receptor inhibitor, and they can really impact your gut. And there's so much research actually, like with like PubMed and stuff in that post. I'm pretty sure I linked some of the articles. I can't remember. But yes, it's like the number one cause of leaky gut syndrome, which leaky gut typically leads you to like autoimmunity or just, chronic inflammation in the body. And it really does a ton of damage to that gut lining, causing that leaky gut inflammation. And then another really interesting thing about that is over time, especially when you try to come off of those drugs, like you've been kind of dependent on it.
Sure.
So over time, your natural production of serotonin starts to like totally drop. So when you come off of it, like sometimes that's why people are like, I just don't feel better. I can't like get there. And it's because you've just been like kind of reliant on that, and it starts to diminish your body's natural ability to produce that serotonin. And there is a lot of research that shows that those drugs feed bad bacteria in the body and can promote a lot of gut dysbiosis, which is like the number one thing that I see in a lot of my clients when I do GI map testing, which is my favorite gut test. It kind of shows you everything that you need to know in your gut. And that drug feeds a lot of those bad strains of bacteria that cause bloating, gas, constipation, diarrhea, those IBS-like symptoms. Some are more chronic than others, but yeah, it's very interesting how just one drug can really cause that many issues. So yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
I know.
My mind is getting blown right now.
I'm so happy right now that I'm like not on anything but it makes me so angry that I was, and I didn't know any of this. It's just wild to me.
Yeah. Like
it goes so much deeper than I thought it did.
Yeah. 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 There's been
that's actually funny you say that.
Go ahead.
Because I like one of my main goals, especially like as I kind of develop my business a little bit more and get everything going, is I want to dedicate like, I don't know, like educating our young people on like all of these things that just like no one tells you about. And then it's just like too late, because that totally happened to me. And then now I'm like not as bad as I was, but I mean, I still struggle with some of my like health issues and autoimmunity flares and things like that. But if I was just more educated on all of these things at a younger age that no one tells you about, it would have saved me so much time and, money and all of those things. So that is like one of my main goals, is to like educate the youth. I don't know when or where that'll happen, but I really want to do that.
You're kind of already doing it. If you're on TikTok and Instagram, you're already educating the youth.
Yeah.
Those youngins.
So there's so much information about gut health, and it's more recent information. And I think a lot of people, myself included, are confused on where to even start and what that even means and how to know if your gut is unhealthy. And I guess like kind of give us some feedback on what it means to have a healthy gut, and go into all that.
Yeah, because I'm clueless too.
Yeah.
Yes, I feel like that's very common because gut health number one is so important because we store a lot of our immune system in there. We convert a lot of thyroid hormone in there. Obviously, without optimal gut health, you can't absorb and digest all the nutrients that you're eating, which is really important for mineral balance, blood sugar balance, literally everything. So the gut is so important, but a good gut would be like you're going to the bathroom at least once a day, and on the Bristol like poo chart, you're having like good, perfect, solid, everything's normal. You're not like loose or hard or whatever. So making sure you're going to the bathroom once a day. You shouldn't be bloated or gassy or, having urgency after you have meals. That's very common for people that have IBS or dysbiosis. The number one thing, this happened to me, I had really like chronically bad gut issues. And after eating meals or really just doing anything, drinking water, my stomach would be like 6 months pregnant, distended. Like it was insane. And you could like touch it and it was like hard as a rock. Like it was so crazy. It was so uncomfortable. It was so painful. I felt like I couldn't eat anything without just like blowing up like a balloon. So using the best place to start, obviously, if you're like, wow, yes, I'm so bloated, I'm so gassy, I can't eat anything without having those issues. I feel like I'm constantly avoiding all of these trigger foods. That's like number one sign there's something deeper going on. So running a functional lab test like the GI map would be your best starting place. A lot of clients ask me like, isn't this the same thing as if I go to like a GI specialist? They do certain kind of like SIBO breath tests and H. pylori breath tests, but 90% of the time, those levels that I test for and like look for from a functional perspective are not picked up on a clinical side. So I've had tons of clients that come to me with like major dysbiosis going on, like aggressive SIBO, very high levels of H. pylori, leaky gut, and they went to a GI specialist and they were like, "Oh, everything's normal. Like you don't have anything. Like here's some Tums or like antacids, which aren't even going to do anything besides make the situation worse." So using those functional lab tests, that's why it's literally so important to use those, and it's worth literally every penny because you're just going to see everything that you really need to know on those tests versus going to like in a clinical setting where they just test for the very extreme of like, this is probably beyond help or like, you know what I mean? So that's why I like using them. And there are cases that I get those tests back. Like I have a couple ulcerative colitis cases and their inflammatory markers are very, very high. So I always work in conjunction, make them go to a GI specialist because obviously, you can only do so much from a functional perspective. If they would have came to me months ago, we probably could have gotten things under control. But now that they're at like such a chronic level, I work in conjunction with a GI specialist, make sure that they're getting, regular checkups to make sure that it doesn't turn into something very bad. So you can always do something from a functional perspective too, but I also do recognize like where a GI specialist could be needed and necessary, and just to make sure that I obviously can't go in with like a colonoscopy and like start taking biopsies for like colon cancer and things like that. So making sure you're doing your due diligence. I obviously don't completely shame the Western medicine way because there is like they do very good work, but from a functional perspective and feeling optimal 100% of the time, like using functional medicine and holistic healing is your best way.
I think sometimes people forget to like, especially here, like they can't think beyond like that there were holistic approaches before all like this Western medicine. Like they can't think before that. And it's like holistic approaches have been around for thousands upon thousands of years for a reason. But sometimes like even with us just talking about like mushrooms as a form of healing for, depression, anxiety, or, whatever, PTSD, people can't think beyond like, well, like my antidepressant works well. And I'm like, well, sure, it can work well for you, but we know for a fact it didn't work for us and it didn't work for a lot of other people. And like, indigenous populations have used this forever for a reason. And, but people can't like think beyond that. So talk.
Can you hear me now?
Oh my God, yes.
It literally, that was it.
Not. I
You know what?
spent, like,
What?
When we did that interview with Henry, I wonder if it was my headphones too.
Possibly.
Do you have AirPods?
They're like, yeah, basically.
Okay.
I hope we have that because that was good.
No, you can still kind of hear. You could hear what you were saying. It was just very.
You sounded like you were talking to us underwater.
Yeah, it just sounded like you were underwater. Like,
So funny.
but I was like, I could still make out everything you were saying. So I really think it'll still be usable. I just wanted to fix it before the rest of it started doing that.
All right.
Okay. One of the things that I have recently learned is that when you are going to your regular practice doctor and you ask for a lab test, it's usually not super in depth. It's very basic, and not a lot of people know that. So they'll be running these labs and it's not exactly what you need to know, but they'll like test them, and insurance doesn't cover a lot of the bigger ones unless you have a reason to want to have it done. And it has to be a damn good reason in order for them to cover it. So I guess my question to you is, we talked a little bit before we got started about this group that you're having come up where you have people do a blood test. Where do you go to have something like that done? I have literally never had blood tests done outside of my doctor.
Yeah, you need to.
Yeah. So with my like certification and everything that I have, I signed up as like, I'm a practitioner under this website. It's called Ulta Labs. So essentially I can just order like any lab that a doctor can order, and it'll go to a Quest lab. It's really nice because I like full thyroid panels are like my really like tried and true. Like I really want to see that on everyone. And that's actually included in the group. And it's very affordable. It's only like $100 for a full thyroid panel, like everything that I need to see. And you just go to a Quest lab, create an appointment, and Quest is like pretty much everywhere. So yeah, that's how I do it. And kind of like going off that question of like the labs like that you go to at your doctor, they're like the most minimal, like basically they're just making sure you're like not dying. I feel like. So, especially when it comes to thyroid, they literally only usually test like TSH and maybe T4. And those two markers are like only telling you like a fourth of the story of what's going on with your thyroid. So I always pull like at least like 4 or 5 or maybe even 6 in some cases, thyroid labs, just to make sure everything's going right. I want to see the full picture of how you're utilizing thyroid hormone, like what your conversion rate is like, and things like that. Because TSH, just, diagnosing someone as hypothyroid based on that is not like a good indicator of that. So, and same thing goes for hormones too. That's why I really like using the Dutch test. It tells you everything you need to know about your hormones with like your cortisol. And I think my video just cut out for a second, but
You're good.
It tells you everything you need to know about your cortisol and like estrogen, how you detoxify your estrogen, neurotransmitters. So it's really looking at everything. And when you go to your doctor, they will just look at like estrogen, maybe progesterone, and they're not even testing in the optimal window of your cycle, because you really need a test in your luteal phase to get an accurate like picture of how your hormones are looking. If you test in like follicular phase or around ovulation, like things are just going to look way skewed. So it's to make sure that you're testing in those windows, because you're just not seeing like the full picture.
So, you know, what's wild? Like, we're female, obviously, we're females.
Yes.
And I am just now learning about the luteal phase, the follicular phase. I don't even remember the name of the other one. Is that ovulation? I don't know.
Yes.
But I'm like, why are
ovulation, menstruation, follicular, and then luteal.
Okay, so this is like, why aren't they teaching this first off in health class and sex ed in all, like, why aren't they teaching women this? Why isn't our OB talking to us about this stuff? Why. I mean, we do know why, but like, let me ask this question for our listeners. Why are they not teaching us this stuff? Why do you think they're not telling us this? So I'm just now learning about this stuff and seeing all the cycling for working out and how each cycle of your what's the word? Each cycle that you're going through, like there's a different type of workout that you could be doing that it's more beneficial for your body and for your for optimal results.
Yeah. Oh, cycle syncing.
Cycle syncing. Thank you. There's the word. So you talk a lot about that too and educate that way.
Cycle syncing is really, really helpful for like a lot of people. Even if you're not experiencing hormonal issues, it's really good to cycle sync your workouts, because if you're just doing the same thing all the time, also that's kind of another topic. And I've learned this the hard way. Doing the same workout all the time is literally not beneficial for anyone. Like, you need to periodize your training so that, you know, you don't hit plateaus all the time and you can actually see progress in the gym. But also with my hormones and like the way that I really need to like move my body and work out is doing it with goal and adding in a lot of low impact movement. When I do a lot of high intensity things or even like weight training, it makes me swell and, you know, just not look very inflamed. So I am super passionate about cycle syncing because I think it's really the best way for women to support their body. Essentially, what you do for that is during menstruation, you essentially take like however long your cycle is, you need to take that many rest days. Like, you can walk, maybe do some light yoga, but you really shouldn't be doing anything at all.
Sign me up already.
And like most women are like, what? Like, I feel like I should be working out all the time. Like, come on. And that's really, your hormones are so low, especially while you're cycling. So you really need to just take it easy. Your energy is low. So doing like some light walking, yoga is probably best. And then during follicular phase, that's when your hormones are starting to increase. So adding in like 2 to 3 workouts a week is probably best. Doing like some incline walking, that's like a little bit more cardio, but still not like really pushing your body. That's going to be optimal.
What the fuck?
I'm dead. That's so funny.
I'm so what happened?
It just like, I was like talking and then it was like, what did it say? It said, oh snap. Website's down.
Shut
I was like,
up. Oh my God. Is like something in retrograde right now?
Damn it.
Probably.
Oh my God. Okay. So follicular phase.
Kind of about, yes, follicular phase is when you can start adding in like a little bit more cardio, doing a couple more workouts. And then ovulation is really when you can push your body. So you can do like 3 to 4 workouts a week because you have a lot of hormones. And like in some people, this is controversial against like anything that I post. And I would never do this personally with my body. But if somebody had a different hormone situation, they could add in a little bit of HIIT cardio if they wanted to. But that should look something like maybe 7 or 8 minutes of like some sprint work or like, I don't know, not like Orange Theory classes. So, yeah, that's kind of like ovulation. And then in luteal phase is when you kind of start tapering things down. So doing things that are like Pilates, you can still kind of do some weight training, but it still should be pretty light, sticking to like 2 workouts a week, and then starting to add in some more yoga and rest days, so that when your cycle comes, like your body's not in a stress state and you won't have a lot of those like PMS symptoms essentially too. So I really love working with my cycle. And it's so funny because I come from a background of teaching fitness classes and that like go hard, go home mentality. And I never would have imagined myself being able to only work out 2 days a week and feel like normal. But I had to get really uncomfortable in the fact that like, okay, this is what I need to do for my body. This is going to be best. Like, this is what I'm doing. And it's definitely been a work in progress, but I feel like it's also opened up so much of my other life to different things that I just like was being so self-absorbed in the gym that now I have like all this extra time to like dive into my career and like really educate people on all of these things. And so it's really crazy how that all worked out. But I work out like 2 to 3 days a week, maybe. And it's so crazy because it's like, I look the best that I ever have. And I like strictly do like Pilates and low impact sculpting because with the way my hormones are, like if I do a lot of strength training, it's going to cause me to like have inflammation and just like swell and look puffy. And I just don't want that. So, yeah, I just never would have imagined I would be doing what I'm doing today because before I was like, walking is not a workout.
Right. Agreed.
And now I like walk all the time and like, that's my workout.
That's like you and I come from the fitness space where, and that's funny because I don't think I've said this, but you and I kind of knew each other before we started this interview because I owned a gym and you were going to maybe work there, but then you ended up moving. But when you and I were communicating during that time, I was in a terrible place, struggling with chronic UTIs, and I was getting these rashes all over my body. And, you know, closing the gym was literally the best thing I ever did. But during that time and when I was in it, it's hard to kind of see outside of it. And so for me, like the more sick I got, the more I would try to work out. And usually those workouts were like intense lifting sessions and boxing classes and like HIIT and boot camp and all that stuff. And I'm like, obviously that was not serving me because I was at my worst, like physically, emotionally, mentally, and now like things have gotten better, but still like even all of the things that you're saying now, I'm like, holy fuck, I still think I'm doing a little bit too much. So would you recommend for most, especially women, to not work out more than 3 to 4 days a week?
I'm hearing 2 to 3.
Yeah, no.
I know. I kind of went up. So I'm going to struggle with that.
2 to 3. So anyone that comes in to work with me, I never put anyone on more than 2 workouts a week. Like literally every single person, because every single person that I get for the majority of the time, they're working out like 5 to 6 days a week or 4 to 5, and they're hormonal like shitstorm going on. And I'm like, the last thing, most of these people are not struggling from not doing enough. It's they're doing too much.
Holy
So you really
shit.
just have to like, talk them down to earth. And I think also when I get a lot of questions like you're saying, and I get a lot of clients, I've had clients that say they won't work with me because that's a requirement that you can only do like 2 workouts per week for like a month or so, just so we can like bring things down to earth. And some people are just so concerned and worried that they're going to have all these like weight gain and like just gain 30 pounds out of nowhere. But I will tell you, like 95% of the time when I bring people in, start them out on my program, 2 workouts a week, like 90% of people like lose 10 pounds in that month, just through like losing inflammation and water from working out too damn much.
Okay. Y'all.
And it's so crazy because we're so conditioned to think like you need to work out 5 or 6 days a week, or you need to constantly be like counting your macros and like slamming all this protein. And I do the complete opposite and get amazing results.
And we
from
are
people.
all about
So
being
it's just so
uncomfortable.
crazy.
You guys are in the workout field. Like, you guys come from the fitness industry, and I come from like lazy girl culture where I'm like, fuck, I don't want to work out. Like,
This is right up your alley.
this is literally like a godsend piece of information, because now I don't feel guilty. And I do, like, when I work out, I try to get in those like 5 days a week. For a while, I was doing like 7 days a week.
I was about to rat you out.
I was doing, like with my Peloton, I was like hitting the 90 days in a row rewards, like, because I wasn't taking any time off. But I was like, on my rest days, I would do like an easy ride.
Well, and then a lot of us have this and our Apple Watch.
Throw that thing away.
Oh, I don't wear one.
So triggering.
I haven't worn one in 2 years.
I have an Oura ring.
I saw that, and I literally looked it up today.
Yes.
Okay, so this is very triggering. You should
totally get one because
it's constantly like, hey,
totally get it.
You're a piece of shit. You have
get up and walk.
get up and work out. You haven't burned enough calories today. Okay, I'm done with it.
I stopped wearing mine after my first mushroom trip. Never put it back on.
Good idea. Plus, it gives me really bad tan lines. Can you go into your ring? Because I was just looking it up right before this interview, and what the fuck it is.
I freaking love this. So it's called the Oura Ring. Obviously, it's like, I just love it because like, look how like simple and like clean it just looks. I feel like I can go out and do normal activities and not have like this like athletic-y looking watch. But that's like half of the conversation. When I was going through my whole like healing journey and I had to stop working out, like I couldn't do it anymore. My Apple Watch, like you're saying, it's like, you're a piece of shit, like stand up for 5 seconds. And I like, obviously I'm like, I can't work out, like chill out.
Shut up.
So I was like, I need something else that's going to be like more like motivating for the stage of life that I'm in. And around that time is when the Oura Ring and this other company called Whoop, that's another great option too. They both really focus on recovery and sleep, and they track your sleep, which I think is so important. Like, I get more like competitive about my sleep now than I do my like exercise. So
this is for you.
Instead of looking at like, oh, I need to burn X amount of calories, I'm like, oh, I need to sleep for like 8 to 9 hours a night. Like, I need to make sure that I'm getting like 2 to 3 hours of deep sleep, and like, you know, just really getting into the sleep stats, because sleep is so important. And when you're going through like the healing journey, obviously prioritizing rest is so important. So, I got that, and it was so life-changing because I was like seeing, you know, firsthand, like, okay, my body's not recovered. Like, it's okay to take a day off, or like, I don't feel like working out today. And you can actually go on this, on the Oura Ring app and like set it to rest mode so that it doesn't like bother you. So yeah, it's a really great tool for, even if you're not just going through like a healing journey, it's just a really great tool because it prioritizes rest and recovery. And I feel like the Apple Watch just like doesn't do that at all. It just makes you feel bad if you like don't work out.
As an Islander, you're speaking my fucking language.
You love sleep.
Well,
you fucking love naps.
Yeah, I do.
But this all kind of goes like, you know, we talk about hustle culture, and as much as I hate hustle culture because it leads to burnout. Like, I literally never thought of it from like a workout aspect.
Rest is super productive.
Rest is, you know, I'm starting to think that like we've been taught wrong. Let me ask you this, because I know that we're speaking primarily with women's health. Is that the same for men to work out twice a day and can they still be as like healthy as, like, my husband is a 7-day workouter. He's 7 days a week.
So's Tony.
Okay. Do you know anything about the what it does for men?
So they obviously men are hormonally set up way different than women. They don't have like a menstrual cycle. They don't have
Birth
ebbs
control.
and flows of their hormones. So yeah.
Fuckers.
So they are set up a little differently, but honestly, it's kind of the same thing too. Like I don't work with a lot of men at all, actually. But the mentor person that I kind of work under, he works with a lot of men and sees a lot of hormonal issues and men that deal with gut issues, autoimmunity, things like that. And a lot of them are from like chronically working out too much and just stressing their bodies too much. A lot of it also is like that hustle culture that you're talking about. So a lot of those men are like top in like their companies or like running a CEO like as a business, and that's just another stressor in itself, and that can definitely cause, you know, issues with things like that. But also, I guess too, another interesting thing from a male perspective is the fertility piece to it. So like, you know, families that are trying to start a family and they're having issues, and they look at the male, you know, side of things, and they're having like some issues there that can definitely be thrown off by stressors on the body and working out too much. So yeah, I think across the board though, generally speaking, working out 7 days a week is just way too much, and like no one really needs to be doing that. I think for men though, like doing like a 5-day workout thing might not be like as detrimental as some women. But generally speaking, I don't really think anyone even needs to do that, like to get good results. Honestly, if you're prioritizing stress and nutrition and, you know, your gut health is good and your hormones are good, working out 3 to 4 days a week or 2 to 3 is totally fine.
Wow. Is there a time frame? Like, are these like 5-hour 2-a-day workouts? I'm just kidding. Like, is it just a normal, like 45 minutes to an hour thing? I'm so confused. Like, I'm not confused. I want to listen to everything you're saying and I want to do it all, but I'm like, I need to know.
Yeah, when I first started kind of transitioning my workouts to like a different method, it was literally like 45 minutes of weight training. I was still doing some weight training at that time, and it was 45 minutes straight. I would literally walk out of the gym feeling like I had barely done anything, which is how it's supposed to feel. But now I've kind of transitioned my workouts because I don't really like love the weight training stuff anymore. Kind of like I said, it just makes my body swell and I just don't like it. So I do a lot of Pilates, and those are like, you know, 50, 60-minute workouts, but like my heart rate doesn't really get up that high. And then I do a lot of walking. I will throw in like a couple days of jogging outside, like to get some extra cardio in, but that's like 2 days max and around like ovulation. But for the majority of my clients that I start out, I'll do that 2-day, you know, full body weightlifting for 45 minutes. Like, and I tell them, I want you to feel like you barely did anything. Like we're literally just going in there to kind of tap the muscle, get your glucose and insulin sensitized a little bit, and that's it. And like you can walk the rest of the days, you can do yoga, but I really just want you to like feel like you barely did anything. And they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Just trust me. Like give me 4 weeks of dedication of doing this, and I promise you will like be like, oh my God, thank you so much." Like it happens every time. Like just trust me, trust the process. Like it works every single time.
I love that.
I'm like blown away right now.
Yeah.
You're already changing our lives.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the group she's going to do?
Well, I kind of wanted to get in a little bit into food.
Okay,
like,
go.
If, I guess, you know, with food, where is a good place for people to get started? They listen to this podcast and they're like, okay, like I'm going to do 2-3 days a week, low impact, whatever. Give some feedback on like how they can get started on like cleaning up their diet.
Yes. So I come from more of like a pro-metabolic background, and I have a post on this that really does a good job of breaking down like, here's some really good protein sources, carbs, fats, but it's mainly animal-based protein. There's a lot of evidence out there that like veganism and vegetarian dieting just isn't enough, like amino acids and vitamins and everything like that. So using animal proteins is really optimal. And then carbs are obviously like our number one source for energy for every single cell in the body and our thyroid. So if you're low carb dieting and you have severe hypothyroidism, like definitely eat all the carbs you want, but they should be high quality carbs like potatoes, honey, fruits, like things like that that are really nourishing to the body. And then fats are obviously essential for hormonal health. All of our hormones are made from cholesterol. So if you're not eating enough healthy fats, you don't have any cholesterol to make hormones. So healthy fats are really, really important. I like using like grass-fed butter, avocados here and there. I don't like using a lot of nuts and seeds. There's a lot of evidence out there for nuts and seeds. They're polyunsaturated fats. They can oxidize very quickly in the body and cause oxidative stress. And for most people that have a lot of gut issues, they can cause excess bloating and like issues with that. So people that are slamming the nut milks and nut butters and nut cheeses, like if you also think about it, those are very processed foods that were never a thing until like this past like, few years. So I really try to get a lot of people eating back to like how our ancestors ate with like animal-based proteins and
Raw milk.
all of those like ancestral foods that are very nourishing to the body, and our body recognizes those foods. Another thing too, and I think we'll see this in the next few years, is high protein dieting. There's this new kind of concept term of people that have become protein adapted. And it's typically people that are very high stress. They have hormonal issues, and they're also dealing with a lot of glucose issues. And what's happening is their body has become adapted to eating too much protein all the time, and their body will start to break down that protein into glucose so that it can utilize glucose in the body, but it's using protein as that glucose. And so a lot of my clients, I will immediately put them on like a lower protein diet, and it immediately improves a lot of their glucose issues because they are no longer that protein adapted. And I like to do a lot of protein fasting with some of my autoimmunity clients because it promotes autophagy, which is the natural cleaning of cells. And really the only way to do that is through different variations of fasting, but protein fasting is a really great way to do that. And that's where you eat like no protein at all. Obviously that's not like a long-term diet thing. Like I only use it intermittently, and I only use it on very certain cases, but it is extremely helpful and can really, really help promote, getting rid of those bad cells in the body that are causing inflammation and things like that.
Wow. Okay. How do you feel about rice? I'm Islander and I love
rice. Rice is a great carb source. Yes. Woo! Rice is a great carb source.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Well, okay, so you said raw milk earlier. Like I've been reading up a lot about raw milk, and
instead of like almond milk, and
I've been drinking oat milk for like the better part of a year, and now I'm like, shit, that's not even good. So raw milk is something that I've been looking into. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, raw milk is literally amazing, and it's way better option than like nut milks, nut cheeses, things like that. But I will say, like, if someone has been drinking those like dairy-free alternatives for a very long time and they just go cold turkey to the raw milk, like you're probably going to have some issues. Like you really need to ease your way into it because it is a very like, for some people it can be very hard to digest, but with raw milk, since it's not pasteurized, you get that lactase enzyme, which is required to digest lactose. And in conventional dairy, through the pasteurization process, it's heated. So they heat away, or that lactase enzyme is, essentially gone from that pasteurization process. So that's why most people have issues with conventional dairy and buying like a higher quality. Yeah.
I stopped
Buying like
eating
a
dairy.
higher quality dairy can be very, very beneficial. Also, if you have underlying gut issues and you start trying to introduce like raw milk or a bunch of dairy, it might not be the dairy that's the problem. It could be some underlying gut issues. So for people like that, which through most of my gut protocols, like if I have clients with a lot of dysbiosis or like SIBO, whatever, I will start them out on coconut milk because that's like a better option as a dairy-free, if you're going to do dairy-free milks, coconut milk is typically better. So I typically, on all my gut protocols, will include coconut milk. And then after we kind of come out of that in like a repair phase, I'll start to add in little bits of, high quality dairy and just kind of like see how they do.
Holy shit.
We got to get on this.
I know. Yeah, take my money. Take my money. So I do have one more question, and that is alcohol.
Oh,
and how alcohol impacts our health, and our gut, and
that's like the number one question I get asked. And obviously, like I'm a young person too, and I like to enjoy myself every once in a while. So I will tell my clients too, like, hey, if you're going through a gut protocol, like I would really avoid it because it does cause a lot of inflammation in the gut. It can cause more dysbiosis, especially if you're dealing with yeast overgrowth. If you have like wine or things like that, it's going to cause more yeast overgrowth and issues in your gut. So avoiding it during like an entire gut protocol is probably going to be your best option. But obviously I'm not sitting at home with you or going out with you on the weekend. So that's kind of up to you, what you want to do. But overall, I mean, I think alcohol kind of goes without saying, it's not like the best thing for our health, but I do understand as a society, like it's so funny too, because I was actually thinking about this the other day, how many like activities and things are just revolved around alcohol. Mm-hmm. And I get that question all the time. Like, what do I like? Can I have a drink or whatever? And I'll just kind of explain, like, if you're going through a gut protocol, I wouldn't, but if you want to just like have one or two, like that's fine. But it is actually so crazy. I feel like we're seeing more, at least I've seen more too on social media. More people are joining that sober, curious lifestyle of like, what, like, I'm going to go, alcohol free and like see how I feel. And all these people are like, I instantly have lost inflammation in my body and my face. Like I feel so much better. And I feel like somebody said this the other day too, and I feel like it's such a good analogy. Like alcohol, I feel like will be the new like cigarettes. Like everyone, found out that cigarettes were so bad, and everyone used to do like smoke cigarettes all the time, like way back when. And then now, in modern day, it's like, that's so bad for you. I feel like alcohol will kind of have that same like revolution as more and more like information is coming out. So I don't know. I think it's interesting, but obviously it's not like the best thing for our hormones and health. But if you're just having it every once in a while, I think it's fine. There's obviously options that are more like better than others. So I don't know. It really just depends. But I think, that sober, curious lifestyle is definitely like a trending thing and will be like more popular. I know that now that I'm like out of college and kind of like older, I don't like find myself like drinking as much. Like I'll have it here and there for like special events, but definitely not like at every single dinner that I go out to or anything like that. So I think it's just like having moderation and balance too.
When you do drink, are there things that you do like beforehand and afterwards to like kind of help your body prepare for what it's about to ingest?
Oh.
Yes, I would say like overall, like I've already worked like liver detoxification. I kind of work that on like a daily basis too, like nourishing with all of the supplements that I use. My diet obviously is very high in micronutrients, so just really nourishing my body with a solid meal too. That's so important. Like ladies, let's like stop drinking on like empty stomachs because that is
Yeah.
literally so counterproductive to anything. And if you're worried about being bloated, drinking on an empty stomach will make you more bloated typically. So having something small before you like go out to dinner, go drink or whatever, like is so important. And it doesn't have to be like a whole like 5-course meal or anything like that, but just something small that's like got a little bit of protein, carbs, and fat can really do the body justice to make sure you're not going to like totally blow up your stomach or like, you know, cause major issues. So I think doing those things, and then obviously like drinking a lot of water, you know, balancing your electrolytes and things like that are super important. And the day after too is really important. So getting in like some light movement, like going for a walk, or if you have a sauna, like kind of sitting in there, sweating it out. But yeah, just like really nourishing the body around those times, I think is good.
I love it. Mm-hmm. Man, you are smart.
I know. I love it. So the group, can we go into that a little bit? We want to join. Well, I'm like saying this. I'm like, I don't even know the details, but I'm sold, done. Sign me up, sign us up. So you do coaching, you do one-on-one coaching, and then coming up, you have a program that's like a group thing. Can you talk a little bit about that for our listeners? And so they have an opportunity to follow you and know what to expect?
Yeah, for sure. So my one-on-one offering starting in February, like with my website launch, I will be doing a 3-month or a 6-month option for my one-on-one coaching. And that's really for people that obviously want to find the root cause of their health issues. They're tired of dealing with the Western medicine way of whatever, and they're dealing with hormonal imbalances, autoimmunity, gut health, anything like that. That's really for them. You get one-on-one access with me, you know, a monthly check-in, and then communication throughout that, and then personalized protocols that include meal plans like nutrition, education, supplement protocols, lifestyle changes, like really everything, workouts. So you really have everything in one place, which is really nice. And then, so that's one-on-one coaching. There's a 3-month and a 6-month option. And then the groups I'm really excited about because this is the first time that I'll be doing this. And I think it'll be really cool. I'm capping it at like 15 people just because I don't want a huge, like overwhelming situation for the first time. But essentially what it'll be is a 6-month group program. What you'll do is when the enrollment starts, you will put down a deposit that will pay for all of your labs. Those labs will be immediately ordered. They'll be shipped to your house. You'll take those labs. And then once I get the results in, that's when we'll start scheduling the 1-hour consultation with me. And we'll go through every single lab that you did, kind of explain everything. Like, here's why I think X, Y, and Z is going on. Here's what we're going to focus on throughout the program and really help balance these imbalances that are going on in the body. So we'll set up that consultation, and then every month we'll have like a topic essentially. So the first month will be a liver detoxification kind of module, and we'll go through an educational session on what's going on. I'll give you a protocol, and then during that session, like we'll be educating more on like what's going on, why I'm having you do certain things. And then at the end of each hour-long session, there'll be like question and answer, time. So if you have any questions about anything, we can go through them as a group, because I'm sure other people will have the same questions. Yeah. So we can all just chat about it together. And then
the next months after that, each like month goes into a different kind of topic. So like thyroid health, gut health, hormones. So it'll also be really great just from an educational perspective so that you can really learn more about all of these things that I'm having you implement and do. And it's not just like, here, like, take this, do this. So you're really getting the like why behind all of it, which is great. And then on top of that, you will be put into a group with the other 14 people. And that way you guys can all kind of like chat and talk about like, hey, how is this going for you? Or like, I'm kind of confused and lost on this. So like, what are you guys doing for that? I think it'll be good to kind of connect with that. Or I have this condition. Like, is there anyone else in this group that is struggling with the same? Like maybe we can kind of collaborate on, you know, symptoms, side effects, things like that. And then also within the group coaching program, you'll get 18 question credits to me. So 3 questions per month to ask me directly, which is a nice option too, because most group coaching programs don't, like, once you're kind of in the program, that's kind of like it. You don't really get one-on-one access. So on top of every Q&A session at the end of the modules, you'll also have a chance to ask outstanding questions to me, which I think will be really great. And then I'm really excited about the last module in the course is kind of like a maintenance module, because I get this question all the time, like, how do I live my life kind of after going through all of these protocols and like doing all these things, and like, how do I, obviously staying on a strict protocol 24/7 isn't realistic for anyone. So how do I best live my life with like balance and keeping all these things in mind? So I'm going to focus on that module, really educating on here's the things that you can do to like live your life in balance and still have, you know, your health at the top of your mind, but not be like this restrictive kind of, you know, way of living. So I'm really excited about it. I think it'll be a really great option, and it's super affordable. I made sure, like, I checked out other practitioners' website because I want to like make an affordable option, because I know it is a luxury service, but I know like how transformational it can be for people. And I just really want to like make it as affordable as possible, obviously without not being like totally giving out everything for free, but right. I think it'll be just a really good option for people that just like can't afford the one-on-one. And then also kind of in the future too, this is probably like the end of this year, I'm working on creating like a wellness community, like a wellness portal app type thing. And it will be a subscription based kind of spot where you can get recipes. My blog will be in there with like more extensive education sessions. And then there will also be like Q&A where I do like kind of quarterly sessions of like educational topic of like whatever is going on during that time. And then you can ask questions for that. But that'll be like a $20 a month, you know, kind of offering, like super affordable, and you still get a lot of information still. So I'm really trying to like across the board make it more affordable, because I know the one-on-one coaching for everyone just isn't reasonable. And I totally recognize and realize that. But I think with offering the group coaching and then potentially the wellness community, that could really help people still get some help, but, you know, not break the bank.
Wow. I am so glad that things didn't work out for you before, because
me too.
Because this is like truly what you are meant to do. Like, I feel like
you can feel it.
Yeah. You could like, I could talk to you for hours about this.
Oh my gosh. I love that so much. Yes. It's so crazy how things shake out. And I always like reflect too on like everything that's happened in my life, because it's just like so crazy. Like at the lowest point in my life where I thought like my career is over, like I don't even know what I'm living for. Like this is just not, like I don't even know what I was doing with my life, quite honestly. And then like out of that situation comes like something that is so amazing and like I'm passionate about, and like it's so rewarding and clearly people are like on the same page and like
Yeah.
really, you know, receiving to everything that I'm posting.
Yeah.
And it's just very like, it makes me so happy too,
Yeah.
because I'm just like, oh my gosh.
The way we relate to that.
There's a movement right now, and you know, we're all kind of playing roles in this movement, which I think is like pretty impressive and powerful and empowering. And what we are doing and what you are doing is so needed. And I don't know, I think with Christine and I too, like the way that we relate to like not feeling like we have a purpose and shit's falling apart. It was all to bring us to something better. So you're on the other side, right with us. We're all there. I love it.
Yes, no, I love that.
So for our listeners, we'll put your links and your Instagram all in our bio, so you can send us that. But just to close out, like how can our listeners find you?
You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Be Balanced by Micaela, and then my website, like God forbid everything goes as planned. It's been literally a work in progress for like 4 months. But I have a really amazing website designer that I've been like collaborating with, and I just want it to be like perfect and right. So that should be launching within like a month, which I'm really excited because like all my details about like my credentials and everything that I always get asked on a daily basis through Instagram will be found on my website, and that'll be www.bebalancedbymicaela.com. So yeah. And then if you're interested in working with me or joining the group, all of the details for like application and everything will be on the website. So you can find it all there. But I'm sure I'll post like an announcement when it's launched, because oh my gosh, there's been so much work that goes into it. And I'm not even actually creating it. It's just like getting all the pieces over to her. But it'll look really cool once it's done.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm like, I want to start right now.
Yeah.
Like
literally.
right now. Like we need that website to like be ready to go, because you've got 2 people right
I
here
know.
ready. So
you guys would do so good.
Yay. Thank you for everything. Thank you for your time and for sharing with us. And we will talk to you soon.
Yes, thank you so much, ladies. I'm so excited.
Bye.